This conference will now be recorded.
All right, terrific. Getting started just a minute late here. Thanks for bearing with us. Sound problem here, but I think we're okay. Good afternoon, good morning, as the case may be to everyone, to the Satellite Book Club Seminar Series. Brian Gockel here, Office of Observations with the Tower S team. We wanted to give you a couple of opening remarks as usual. First of all, as you heard, the session's being recorded. We'll have Q&A after the presentation, and please post your questions in the chat room, and so that our team can field them from there. We encourage you when you log in, as most of you are already doing, but please log in with your full name so that we can follow up with you as needed and help keep track of who's asking which questions, and also get back to you with any additional information that might be related to your question later on. As usual, we're looking for presenters for future Satellite Book Club Seminar Series, and you're welcome to give a presentation. Contact the Tower S team, Kashad Bowman, Lee Byerly, and they'll help guide you on that. And should you need materials, taking advantage of existing product materials that are available, or otherwise developing your seminar, please contact Brian Mata for information. He can provide some guidance, direction, and advice, and possibly even assistance on that. Thanks as always to the Office of Observations, GOES-R program, Tower S collaboration, and specifically to Kashad Bowman, who has gotten us all lined up here today. Office of Chief Learning Officer, GOES-R and JPSS programs, and of course to our facilitator, Yingwei Liu, physical scientist from STAR. Yingwei will be guiding us through the presentation. Our presenter today is Kirk Lombardy. The title is Ice Flow Hazards. And before we turn it over to Kirk, just a few words. Kirk is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service office in Cleveland. He is the Marine Program leader there, and he's also responsible for the Great Lakes Ice Program for the American waters. Kirk, welcome to the Satellite Book Club Seminar Series, and please begin as soon as you're ready.
Well, I want to say thank you very much, and greetings to everyone for this wonderful opportunity to speak about a well-documented but often forgotten hazard we have here in the Great Lakes. The National Weather Service here in Cleveland does have the responsibility for the ice forecast on the Great Lakes, all the way from Lake Superior down to Lake Erie. Actually, we're not really responsible for Lake Ontario because most of the shipping that takes place is pretty much from Lake Erie on up to Lake Superior. Typically, these forecasts were designed to assist mariners like the Great Lakes shipping fleets that navigate the waters of the Great Lakes when ice is present on the water. But there is a hazard we have to watch out for, and that is the threat for ice flows, stranding ice fishing enthusiasts, and anyone that dares to venture out onto the ice. So we will focus on an ice flow case that occurred back in February of 2021 that actually made national and even international news, and we received tons of accolades from the media that we actually warned people in advance to stay off the ice because there was a high risk of becoming stranded on an ice floe. But I would be remiss if I don't actually identify or define what an ice floe is. Basically, it's a sheet of ice that is floating on the surface of the water and is just separated from any other ice or the shore. If you remember Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and you see Rudolph and his friends floating out on the ice, that is what we consider an ice floe. So let me go ahead and get started here and continue on. First of all, during the event that we're going to be talking about, during the winter of 2021, the Great Lakes saw a very limited ice season and was beginning to look like it would be rather uneventful. My freeze-up outlook, but I'll explain what that is. Typically, what we do is starting in the first week of November, I will start to issue these outlooks of what the ice conditions are expected to be across the Great Lakes throughout the upcoming winter. This gives the shipmasters an idea of what type of season they can expect for planning purposes. These are usually issued every 2 weeks from the first week of November all the way out through December, when ice typically begins to form. And then we start to issue an ice forecast Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. But the freeze-up outlooks that I issued back in the fall of 2020 indicated we would see a less than normal ice season due to the effects of La Nina. La Nina was forecast to occur during that winter. And then historically, La Ninas have produced a minimal ice cover on the Great Lakes. But there were a few outliers where significant ice did occur. This went pretty well with the Climate Prediction Center's winter forecast of above normal temperatures throughout much of the Great Lakes. And also the Climate Prediction Center feared that there was the potential that 1 or 2 major cold air outbreaks would penetrate across all of the Great Lakes. And this indeed did occur. As you can see here, in early February of 2021, and over the course of about 11 days, rapid ice did develop on Lake Erie and along the shores of the rest of the Great Lakes. On average, the Great Lakes typically see ice start to develop in late December or early January, and there's a gradual increase in the aerial coverage that takes place about mid to late February. Normally, though, late February is the period in which we don't normally see much in the way of major ice growth due to the higher sun angle starting to warm the water surface again. And so in comparison, the 2020 and 2021 winter saw a major jump in ice coverage on Lake Erie from about 15% coverage all the way up to 80% during that very short period of time. Let me take a moment to define what fast ice is in preparation for this event that I'll be talking about in a few minutes. Fast ice is ice that typically forms along the shore, and it actually anchors to the shore and also on the bottom of the lake, since the water is so shallow in that area. Unfortunately, this becomes ideal ice that tempts people to walk out onto the surface, and the fast ice formed along the south shore of the lake, setting up the potential for the event that we're going to be talking about here. In this diagram, you can see the profile of the ice field along the shoreline. This is typical of what we would see on Lake Erie, and it extends from the shore out to the open waters. And this is typically where the ice begins to form once it does form. Fast ice will form and grow along the shoreline near the land there. And then it also will combine with small and large ice flows that drift toward the shore, and they kind of become compressed together. And as the ice flow collides, pressure ridges start to develop. And so with that, we have ice plate tectonics in action as mountain ridges begin to form along the line where the 2 ice flows push together. And then a few factors can play a role in causing an ice flow to break away from the shore. Water currents under the surface of the ice can put tension on the ice, resulting in weakening of the ice. Changes in water levels can cause the ice to rise and fall, creating weak points or shear zones. And then as winds begin to blow offshore from the land toward the water, the ridges act as sails, and the overall frictional forces on the ice allow the ice to drift away from shore with no warning to the unsuspecting guests out on the ice. So as an overview of the event that occurred over the weekend of February 20th in 2021, this is the synoptic setup showing that there was high pressure just to the south of Lake Erie. And this setup is an ideal setup for an ice floe to drift from the shore. And we can take a look at the surface map that, like I said, here on the 20th of February. Generally light winds develop from the southwest on Saturday. This is extremely important because this allowed the ice on the open waters to drift slowly away from the fast ice along the shore. Lead forecaster Marty Mullen and I worked the evening shift Saturday night, and the models were indicating that the winds would be increasing from the southeast and become an offshore flow over Lake Erie. And we started to look deeper into the potential for ice flows drifting from the shore, because the forecast also called for a beautiful day with lots of sunshine on Sunday. We feared the worst would occur and that people would be headed down to the lake shore and want to be curious and start to walk out on the ice. Here's the MODIS image from Saturday, February 20th, 2021, showing the ice in the open waters beginning to pull away from the shore, leaving behind the fast ice along the shore. These are actually prime conditions for the entrapment of people out on the ice. And as you can see here, the satellite imagery was a key role in us deciding to look into this a little bit deeper. As you can see here, mountain ridges can form on the ice field, and as a result of large ice flows colliding with one another. And once again, unfortunately, this can be rather inviting to an unwary person that is looking for some entertainment on a nice sunny day down by the lake. Marty and I decided to start assessing the hazard threat of a potential ice flow breaking loose Sunday, and this is what we came up with as far as our parameters go. As I mentioned earlier, we did have fast ice present along the shore, and there was a forecast for an offshore flow of wind perpendicular to the shoreline. The ice in the open waters began to retreat from the shore, allowing open water to form and make room for the fast ice to drift away from the actual shoreline. The forecast for mild temperatures and nice weather would encourage, unfortunately, people to be outdoors, especially during this COVID era. And finally, recalling a history of multiple rescues resulting from people becoming trapped out on ice floes. So our goal then turned to preparing our marine partners for the worst and be ready to take action. And as you can see, Lake Erie has been notorious for people becoming stranded out on the ice. These are recent headlines over the years that I've collected from local and national media when cases over 100 people have become trapped out on the ice. And we have to mention that people have actually died while becoming trapped. My first experience with alerting the people to stay off the ice occurred a few years ago when I saw a potential for a major ice flow to break off from shore near Ottawa County here in Ohio. I notified the fire chief in that area and issued a marine weather statement at the time. This area is notorious for becoming a small city of ice fishing enthusiasts during the ice fishing season. And we did have a few people become stranded on the ice that day, and one person unfortunately died from trying to jump across the crack and fell into the water. the word I got is that they died from a heart attack. The chief told me it was a good thing I issued the marine weather statement, because otherwise he would have had over 1,000 ice fishing enthusiasts on the lake that day, and fortunately only a few went out there. In preparation for the potential hazard on Saturday, the 20th of February, I asked Marty if I could issue a marine weather statement. He gave the go-ahead, and this started the ball rolling to get everyone notified. We did highlight in the statement that dangerous ice conditions were possible, and it is advised to stay off the ice, as anyone on the ice when the ice floes break away or break off will become stranded. This quote was used in every news article I could find around the world because we're able to forecast the potential event. We issued social media posts on Twitter and Facebook, alerting people to stay off the ice. After people started to see our posts, I read other posts from people reminding their friends and family that the National Weather Service is warning people to stay off the ice. We also called the District 9 Command Center for the Coast Guard to notify them of the possibility of ice floes breaking off from the shore, causing people to become trapped. And we also informed the Coast Guard Group Buffalo, who is typically responsible for the search and rescue, along with Group Detroit, that is responsible for aircraft support and search and rescue missions. In the briefing package that we sent via email to the Coast Guard, we included the marine weather statement and our social media posts. As you can see here, the Coast Guard retweeted our post, and during conversations, the Coast Guard was very appreciative of the heads up and thought it was awesome that we contacted them in advance. And one of the things we did note was that the social media post was a huge boon for getting the message out to the public compared to past events. So what was the result? Well, you guessed it. We predicted correctly. And as you can see here, this is another image of the ice as it started to drift away from the shore on Sunday. And if you notice here, right here is where the event actually occurred, where I have it circled. And you'll see where the ice is beginning to separate from the fast ice along the shore. Lake Michigan had a similar situation that was actually caught on camera. And also wanted to point out, if you notice that there appears to be some possible tracks down towards the bottom of the image, where somebody possibly ventured out on the ice down, and they, if they had been out on that ice that day, they too would have been trapped. And if they didn't have a cell phone with them, who knows if anybody would have known that they were out there. The location of the February 2021 incident occurred at Edgewater Beach, which is located just west of downtown Cleveland. And this will be the focus for the event we're talking about. Sure enough, the beautiful weather brought people out to the lake shore. And yes, there were a few, make that 10, daring souls that walked 3/4 of a mile out onto the ice. I mean, that's quite a distance, you know, especially with the sun angle being, or excuse me, the length of daylight being so short. You know, they're taking a great risk if they were to become lost out there. Notice in the background that there are ridges of ice that are sticking up behind the people there. And this is a perfect setup for the wind to snag onto the ice floe and push it out into the lake. Unfortunately, these passengers did set sail for a tour and a meeting with the United States Coast Guard and the Cleveland first responders, as they realized they had no way off the ice. Needless to say, the second guy from the right looks rather embarrassed that they got trapped. Unfortunately, 3 of the 10 people stranded out on the ice were children. The foolish acts of the adults putting young lives in danger. These people were lucky because the ice floe could have crumbled underneath them when it broke away. And had they all entered the water, we would likely have had 10 fatalities from the cold water shock. We use strongly worded phrases, hoping that it would have a significant impact on anyone wishing to venture out on the ice. The media surely latched on to that wording that we posted in the marine weather statement. I wanted to share this quote from the New York Post because they made use of many of the statements we included in the social media post. And social media, as I mentioned a little bit ago, was a difference maker. We did not get this much news coverage and quotes from the media during the event that occurred a few years ago. Multiple news agencies cover the story from local, national, and believe it or not, international locations. So I was happy to see this case get such widespread news coverage and hope that it teaches people to stay off the ice, since it's not a place you really need to be. Now, I'm not one for tooting my own horn, but I wanted to share with you a bit of thanks to Brian Hirsch. He is the Central Region Marine Program Leader for the National Weather Service. He thought that my training that I developed on ice floes and the hazards had some value, and decided to make it a course for the Commerce Learning Center. And our end goal was to be able to teach the marine forecasters throughout the Great Lakes and other areas where ice can develop about the science behind ice floes, and so that they can convey the risk associated with these events to the public and to their partners. And that's pretty much all I have to talk about this event, and I am open to any questions.
Thank you very much, Kirk, for your wonderful presentation and your great work to warn the public and also save people's lives. I would like to encourage everyone to please stay on for the discussion, looking for questions, comments, and suggestions from the field forecast offices and the regional headquarters, and of course from every participant. Please specify your full names when asking a question in the chat section or when you speak up. And also please complete the feedback survey posted in the chat room or will be posted in the chat room. And also I want to remind everyone, if you have any questions about the satellite book club or for configuration of satellite products, please contact the Taurus team, Lee Barry and Kashord Bowman for your questions. And also, in a week from today on Thursday, June 16th, we'll hear a talk by Mark De Maria from Cooperative Institute for Research in the Atmosphere, CIRA, on satellite support activities. With that, we start the discussion. So let me have a question for Kirk. We have not heard much about the National Weather Service alerting the public about the dangers regarding ice floes. So what made you start issuing alerts to the public?
Well, back when we had this case where it occurred in Ottawa County, I knew that there were a lot of ice fishing enthusiasts out there, and I was concerned that a lot of times when I'm working shifts during the wintertime, I'll leave the visible satellite up and I'll just watch the ice moving around. And I kind of got a feel over 30 years that I've been doing this, watching the ice, how it moves and where it breaks off from the shores. And and I know that these ice enthusiasts were out there, and I was very concerned. And at the time, I said, well, I guess it wouldn't hurt to put out a marine weather statement just to let the people know that, hey, there's a potential that we're going to get these strong winds out of the south. And fortunately, it worked out. It did keep a lot of the people off the ice. And and then now with these latest events that we've had, we started to push this a little more, and with success.
Right. Thank you very much. We have a question from Bill Solberg. I apologize if I don't speak your name correctly. So Bill's question is, can you repeat what lakes your WFO is responsible for, and what satellite imagery were you using?
We are responsible. Well, first of all, let me just give a real quick history. Back in the 1970s, the National Weather Service in Cleveland was tasked with taking over a lot of the marine program, with the the storms on the lakes, and then also the ice forecast. And the ice forecast is one of the things that we still have responsibility for, and we are responsible for all of the lakes from Lake Erie all the way up to Lake Superior. And as I mentioned, the main reason is this is where a lot of the shipping fleets traverse through the different harbors, and from one end of the lakes to the other. Lake Ontario isn't quite as active once they shut down the St. Lawrence Seaway for the winter. And typically I look at like the MODIS satellite imagery, since they did provide quite a bit of detail on the ice coverage on the lakes. And then I usually use the GOES satellite imagery that we look at on our AWIPS display for the loops and getting a timing of how fast the ice is moving. I mean, I've literally seen whole islands of ice break away from the Cleveland shore and move all the way up to the Canadian shore all in one day. It's just rather impressive to see these large cities-size ice flows just moving about. The other thing I wanted to mention too, that these ice flows are a hazard to the shipping fleets, because the Coast Guard will go through and cut a channel, or what they call a track, on the ice, and allow the ships to pass through. Well, if these ice flows start to move around, that track can pinch a ship in the middle of it, and they get trapped in there, and they just drift right along with the ice until they can get icebreaker assistance.
Thank you. We have another question from Mordecai Cohen. Sorry, I apologize again if I don't speak your name correctly. The question is there a way to determine how thick the ice is?
Yes, there's the agency. It's called the United States National Ice Center, and they work hand in hand with the Canadian Ice Center, and they produce ice products that show the actual thickness of the ice and shows the aerial coverage. This is also an important part of what we use to issue our ice forecasts throughout the winter months. So if you look up the United States National Ice Center, and you'll see the Great Lakes, or actually they're responsible for pretty much much of the northern hemisphere, like from United States on up into Canada, assisting with the Canadians.
Thanks. I just want to provide a comment like right now, for the GOES 16, GOES 17 operational product, there is a ice thickness product under clear sky conditions. You could take a look, see how that product look. So Modake has a follow-up question. Is there a way to automate like AI or machine learning approach to identify the ice flows and the situations like you have experienced?
Well, that would be awesome if we could do that. Unfortunately, as far as I know, there's really no way to determine exactly where these fissures in the ice are developing. If we had some way maybe in the satellite realm to be able to get, maybe hourly satellite information where we can watch the ice, what it's doing and where these fissures might form, perhaps, and with the wind forecasts that we have available on the lakes. And then from the Great Lakes Environmental Research Lab, they produce these underwater currents forecasts as well. So perhaps that is a possibility down the road, and it would be phenomenal if we could do this, because it would tremendously help us with the safety of the general public and also the shipping fleets. If we can give them a better heads up as to whether these ice flows are going to pinch them off or cut them off. And these ice flows, we remember what happened with the Titanic and the damage that it caused to their vessel. These ice flows do tremendous damage to the shipping fleets, and unfortunately can take them out of the operations. And that's the last thing they need to do, because time is money.
Yeah, thank you. So Mike Lawson from Alaska CS program has a question related to the ice thickness and also have a comment. So Mike, I'm wondering if you can just speak up, ask your question.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great presentation, Kirk. As Young Luke said, this is Mike Lawson with the Alaska Sea Ice Program. It's a topic of great interest to us because we have native communities that use our fast ice for subsistence activities during the long winter season. And in my experience, I've found it's not as easy as just getting some offshore flow. There are of course other factors at play. So my question is, what is the usual thickness of your fast ice, and is there a relationship between the thickness and the wind force needed to dislodge it?
That's something I never really looked into. I found that just any ice that, as long as the biggest factor I found is that as long as the ice flows that come together and create those ridges, those frictional forces are much greater, because they act as, just for lack of better terms, a sail for the wind to latch onto. There's been days where we've had strong winds and the ice never breaks away. And I haven't quite looked at why that is a factor, but I think just the main thing is that frictional force. And I'll look more into that in the future, though.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. Bill Solberg has a comment, also has a question. So he hopes you will start using VIIRS data for your work. And also he's wondering if you are working with WFOs along the Great Lake shores to get lake ice conditions.
We're working on adding these other satellite data, because I do hear that some of what we've been using may be going away. So it'd be nice to get this more detailed satellite information, which would help us tremendously as well. And yes, we do work with the other Great Lakes as far as mainly what we do is, like, when we issue marine weather statements, or like say an ice advisory, we'll issue the advisory for the movement of these ice flows, and then we'll notify the respective lake or weather service forecast offices that is responsible for those waters, so that they can issue a marine weather statement to alert their users as well.
All right, thank you. Just a comment, like I heard the MODIS data is deteriorating, so maybe we'll be gone soon than later. So we are working on we have a team at SIMS, a Cooperative Institute for Meteorological Satellite Studies here at Madison, and also at STAR. cryosphere team is working on the S products using VIRS data, so we can work together to get the VIRS data for you in your work. So
That would be great. Yeah, I've already been in contact with a few individuals about that, and I'd like to continue that the dialogue.
yeah, okay, thank you. So Michael Jamikowski has a question. The question is, I believe that the Canadian and US S centers get much of the S data from the SAR set. Is anyone out there familiar with this? Or Kirk, you are familiar with the SAR data application in the Great Lakes ice conditions?
Yes, I've heard of that. I'm not real sure exactly what they use. I know that they've used like some of the ice observations that they get from the shipping fleets, and I do look at their products that they issue, and so yeah, all I can say is that I'm not sure exactly what they're using all the time.
I know, just comment, I know Sean Helfrich of STAR, he and his team are working on using the STAR data in the deriving some of the ice properties. So you might want to reach out to Sean about this. So
Okay.
So thanks. Victoria Wegman has a comment. So Modis will be defunct this fall, and Andrew Vanderwood can assist you in shifting over to the VIRS data. So that's great. And also, Victoria commented Chris Jackson would be a good contact for SAR ice. So
Okay.
I'm sure Chris Jackson is working with Sean, so both of them can be helpful. And also, Brian Gaggle has comment about SAR. The US NIC uses REDA-SAT 2, ICE-YE, and SAOCOM. So basically, they give you comments on the SAR data.
Okay.
So I have one more question. What would you say is the most important aspect in your success story?
Well, there was one person that asked me when I gave this presentation for all of the marine focal points for Central Region and the National Weather Service. He asked me, he says, have you ever been wrong doing this? And I said, well, no. The several times that we've actually issued these statements, it just, by the luck of the draw, it just seemed like a good classic case. And like I said, I've been watching this for 30 years, and I've just get a feel for the ice and had an idea when these when they would occur. So I just hope we can continue this success and hopefully keep people off the ice. That's the main thing.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much again, Kirk, for your wonderful presentation and wonderful work. And also thank everyone for your questions, comments, and suggestions. So with no more questions, I will pass it back to Brian for the closing remarks.
And thanks very much, Yingwei, for your expert facilitation again. Kirk, was a great talk. I appreciate the very informative, unique forecast challenge, interesting phenomenon, very high impact, and the ability to really create life-saving forecast products informed by satellite products. So it's really great to see this being used. As Yingwei said, we wanted to invite everyone back a week from now, where we're going to shift gears from ice to tropical. Mark DeMaria is going to be with us a week from today. We thank you for your participation today and look forward to seeing you next week. Over and out from here. Thank you.